Good morning, it's George Lees talking from Scotland about the biggest jokes about Scottish freedom and Irish freedom that were ever pulled, and it's talking about religion, the biggest crime that was ever committed across the globe, now globalised, leads to violence in every country, leads to the Scottish myths about freedom. That's Braveheart. Let's play you some music and I'll get you guessing, and then I'll reveal why we live in such a brutal world, entirely for profit and to control the masses at the church. Right then, I'll bring the camera in and I'll show you some images of the absolutely shocking things that all of the religious frauds creates, and the concept that Scotland has ever fought for its freedom is just a joke, and it is really, really sick. And the role of women in life is just to be abused, to be raped, to have their throat cut, and they think in sectarian Ireland that that is really funny. They think that in all of the religious revolutions and the global missions, that killing the innocent people in the countries that are being invaded is really, really funny. Let's get on with it. I'm going to send myself an email. I'll play the music as I do that. But just because of the copyright issues, I'm going to put some images up. And that's George Clooney, who's the mainstay of the story. So, next one is really sick. This is the violence and the religious joke all rolled into one in Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and World War II, and every time there is a global conflict it features on ethnic, racial and Christian division. That's Christian division. You do not need Islam to create war and terror in Ireland for decades entirely. So the people in that image can thrive That's an image of the politicians that are in charge of our world, and the financiers that profit from it, and the people in Intel who work there, who are called Cahill. There are dozens and dozens of them, and that is a joke about Calvary Hill, yeah, by the rock in Jerusalem, and all of it is in the name of Christ, who is a fake, and all of them know it. Yet, which is why they're prepared to go to jail without a fight as soon as we begin to expose their director numbers and his role, Martin Sorrell's role in life, in the financial services defrauding of every country on our globe. Right then, this is tragic, yeah, because this is the New World Order musicians launched to cover it. And the Christian cross is all over the transcript as a joke. Yeah, like George Clooney. All of those movies he's made. Yeah. Yet they're very reluctant to let it play. It's about the Irish Troubles, about everything that happens in Ireland because of the Christian division. Yeah, so they're allowing me to commentate on it, which may be a big mistake. And all of it is tied into ancient myths. So, enough. You see the Christian cross all over it. Oh, sorry, I'm too slow. There we go. Yeah, the root of all evil. The biggest joke that the world ever pulled. The key numbers for that one are 600 for Christ and 300 for the cross itself in the code that allows the writers of that story to take over the whole world. And it ends, allegedly, yeah. So the things about Cluny are about the launch of the religious movement in Cluny in France, right next door to Clermont-Ferrand and the massive frauds of the global Freemasons. Yeah, that's Clermont-Ferrand that come to the Melrose Sevens for 2 years until I begin to get insight about the scams that they run from there. And the reason there is no one on that cross is because Jesus Christ never existed. Yeah, and that's the launch of the Cluny movement. Yeah, and the Cluny movement is all over Scotland, as I'll show you in this video. Takes you into Paisley, which is really Paisley for the PISO family joke. Yeah, and the pie being the vagina, and all of the abuse of the women goes right into all of this story. Yeah, it's all over my website. There is no way they can cover it up. Yeah, the clouds came over last night when I talked about the censorship on both YouTube and Google+, where I'm not allowed to post the text of my own efforts. Yeah. It is ruthless. They watch me write it. They panic. They close me down. They tell me that you're past your space limit. And when I post it, it just depends on the sensitivity of the issues, but their massive intel operation that keeps those leaders safe. Yeah, the leaders I showed you in those images are the leaders that lead our world. And this event, where the leaders meet each other, yeah, McGuiness, all of them are cover-ups for elite names, and I'm going to explain to you the really sick jokes about Paisley as we go through the video. But I've sent myself an email, so I need to pick that up. And this is the whole of the scam involving the richest Christian institutions in the medieval days, which were the Cluny monasteries and abbeys. But in the early days, they were the priories, with the PISO name in it. Do you get it now? This event cost £8 million, yeah, and the security team for Obama could not go to the brothels because America is short of funds because of the plot that the Rothschilds run, yeah, and send all of those guys in red coats to brutalise women all over the world, yeah, so that they can take over the homes that the men and the women used to own. But in the Braveheart movie, they find all of the innocent locals hanging from the rafters, yeah, and she's really pleased with the outcomes from this because they're totally illegitimate. Like him, he's not even an American citizen. Right then, let's forget the modern day conspiracy theories and get to the bloody history of all of this. Cameron this week has begun to disappoint me because he's got a new power base now. He's got another 5 years in office, and he is now demonising Islam again. David Cameron, you now are aware of the risks of that, yeah, and the people with the medals on that brutalise their own country for profit are an abomination. Right then, so let's take you to how all of this ended with the revolution that killed 600,000 people, yeah, for cash, for the Rothschilds, for both sides. And when the revolutionary armies that fought to free the fascists and the world leaders and the kings and queens from the threat of Napoleon, they were executed by Sir Walter Scott's Freemasons and Robert Peel's Freemasons. 88 of them executed, because that's a key PISO and Freemasonic number. It just means we will keep doing this to you until you protest or you turn your guns on the fat cats in the Parliament building and sitting on the throne, and especially the money lenders that the non-existent Jesus warned us about in the PISO family's cleverest crime that the world has not yet solved, with one exception. So this is the music about the revolution in France and about the joke that Coldplay got their degree in ancient history, and they know that Jesus Christ never existed. And when you go to the pearly gates, which all of us may do in due course, you have to account for yourself, and then they know that when St. Peter calls your name, yeah, for reasons they cannot explain, that he will not be there, because he never ever lived. And this is a revolutionary song. Everything in the background is about beheading the elites in the world that run the show and still run it. And all of the rest of the security team are now in intel, and they spend all of their time covering up the exposures that I make, and democracy could be freed, and we could be using that to fund the children. I'm going to get the Gmail up. Listen to the hypocrisy in the words. very, very nervous. It lets me talk. It lets me talk. Yeah, so Coldplay, Christopher Martin. Yeah, everything is a joke for terror, to kill and to profit. With an F. Do you get that one? I know St. Peter won't call my name for some reasons I can't explain. This is what the colonists get as their share in the scam. Okay, this is from the Clutha region of New Zealand, and the Clutha region of Renfrewshire is the hot spot for all of this, which is why I've got Skypey friends from Paisley, and they're ever so keen to establish this week that the world is flat and not round. Yeah, they're quislings all to their country, and everything that is in that Braveheart movie is sickening when you learn the truth about it. I will go to the Jehovah's Witnesses this morning and look at the woman who's a dead ringer for Mirren, who had her throat cut in the Braveheart movie, and her sister is selling Christianity in the fucking Philippines. Right then, so let's go to the Christianity the Christianity pages that we've been in already, and I will shut down the music channels now just in case we are wasting time. So that was James Horner, the Braveheart movie, Cranberries' Zombie, with the Christian cross and the Irish violence for decade after decade. The Coldplay song, and Christopher Martin and his wife, who's in the Lord of the Rings film, yeah, are totally dedicated to covering up the crimes of the world leaders, and they have a massive fan base, and they could change the world in 2 days if they just put through that microphone the truth about everything they learned at University College London. But they will not do it because they're traitors, like all of the world leaders that are in those photos. Gordon Brown, Paddy Ashdown, all of them are traitors to freedom. Yeah, and the people that make the Braveheart movie are particularly well informed, and all of George Clooney's movies are jokes about religion. Right then, most of them. The casino one is mentioned in this story, and it's tragic because it's the story of false Christianity. Right then. So, oh God, where have we got the... So, that was lucky. I almost shut down the website there. And right then, so we've opened Christianity 1, or we're hoping to open it, and we've got the Cluny site. Yeah, so Paisley is actually, when you look at the Latin version of it, it's Paisley. Yeah, and you know now that that is the PISO name. It's the female genitalia. All of it is an abuse of the human condition, or a declaration of what the human condition is. And there, so I don't think I'll need to show you the images again, but do you get the might of the crimes? Yet this is the celebration that the Irish can talk openly now to the Queen, who's totally illegitimate for 160 years, and the Irish leaders could have used that to free themselves, but they prefer to have the violence because that's how it was written by the PISOs. Every one of the stories is to keep the violence running. That day when she met him cost the country £8 million. One day. Okay? And there we have all of the cynicism about the Yanks and the New York Police Department and law enforcement globally, and the redcoats that raise a fortune from tourism. Yeah, we could have every country in the world raising fortunes from tourism if we were allowed it to be peaceful everywhere. Okay, I'm going to have to shut some of these down so that I can stay alive, because I cannot see where the OneNote page... Ah, there we go. So there's a OneNote page on Paisley. Ian, do you get it? Sectarian violence, the whole of his career, became a lord. Yeah, they've got Irish government, they've got a mint in Ireland, they share the British pound. It is all a stitch up, and they killed Lord Mountbatten because he wanted to be in on it, and I'm quite ashamed of that concept now. Yeah, the whole lot, the whole of our country is a trivia for a drink sector. Right then, it's taken ages to open this, and I need to find the other tab, because that's the one about... Oh yeah, the links to Christianity and the launch of the Abbeys all over Britain is a scandal, and that's launched by the Cluny movement. Not many people know that until next week. Yeah, it is scandalous. Yeah, and I've got too many things open. I'm too ambitious, like the Church of Rome. Yeah, but I will not kill to have my way with you. They will. Okay? Okay, and this is another version of the Christianity page that I've opened. Ah, here we go. So, we can now share their belly laughs about the bloody history of our world. Yeah, and nobody knows whether or not any of those poor souls who get slaughtered all of the time make it to heaven. We don't even know whether there is a heaven. That's because the gods are only allowed to know that, but all of it is written about with certainty for profit. Okay, so we've got those two tabs open now in OneNote, and we can now go there, and I'm going to take you back to the timeline, yeah, and show you that we stopped at 1000 AD when we started to get eruptions when Christianity hit Iceland and frickin' Greenland. Okay, so the timeline starts up there, and this is the bits that I've not got to yet. So let's go up to the colour codings and we'll show you the pictures of what you're about to learn. Okay, and that tab there is a new one, Cluny and the Cross Keys, right in the heart of my town. Yeah, it explains the launch of slaves and labour for the Church of Rome all over the world. Yeah, as it begins to meander up the path to fucking freedom. Yeah, as a joke. And the King Charles that I could not suss out is Charlemagne, the Holy Roman Empire, which is why I've played you the French revolutionary music, because that's a joke about profiteering for the Rothschilds as well. Yeah, and there's where we got to. We got to 1000, so we've done Boris of Bulgaria and everybody taking the cash to become Christians, and the pagans now worship the boss man on the throne instead of God. Yeah, that's the irony that made yesterday evening such a cloudy night. Okay, so that's where we got to. Let's now keep going and show you the horrible history about George Clooney, the most handsome man in the world. Okay, so 1008 AD, Sweden is Christianized. Those are the big killers in the 30 Years' War that I told you about. Yeah, and they take over from the Danish Norsemen, that's the Vikings, yeah, and the Norwegian Vikings, and Sweden becomes a legend for that, and about singing the ABBA song about the central banks. 1018, Bishop Hildebrand founds the monastery of San Miniato, still with the witch's name in it. Yeah, the Min is Arius Calpurnius Piso. The Min is founded near Florence, yeah, where Zebedee comes from, on top of the spring for a joke in Zionist BBC, and that's full of art treasures like these, depicting the burning of the witches at the stake by Christianity, the lovely, lovely peace-loving cause, all over the world. 1022, believe that if you like, the first heretic is burnt at the stake in Orleans. Yeah. Okay, then we go down to 1039. German Emperor Heinrich III favours the monastery of Cluny. Have you seen some of the Coen brothers? You know now that the Coen brothers make comedic movies in Minnesota where they have 13 central banks. in America. Sorry, they have one of the 13 American central banks to fund that democracy in inverted commas. Okay, Cluny's abbot Odilo turns his monastery into the head of a monastic feudal system whose influence spreads all over Europe. That's the monastery of Cluny. It was massive before the revolution. There's only a little bit left. The rest is in the Louvre and all of the artistic places around the world. Like all of the revolutionary stories, all of them lies about killing the elites, when actually they were killing the people in the soldiery, in the revolutionary movement, and when they returned home they got killed in their homeland. Yeah, that is the Glasgow executions. Huge audience at that. 70,000 people in those days to watch the killing of the people that saved them from the Napoleonic threat by people who are Freemasons from the Abbotsford Trust and the Peelers and the London police. And when they came home from World War I, they put the tanks in front of them and refused to give them a working wage. Okay? Right then, so this has had 2 Academy Award nominations, and it is O Brother, Where Art Thou? Featuring George Clooney. Yeah, and the women are abused in that movie as well, and it's a gift from God in that movie, and all of it is a massive joke. Okay, and it's the Coen Brothers movie made in 2000, O Brother, Where Art Thou? It ends with the biblical flood, and he has a laugh at everything he does, and the casino movie is mentioned further down. Okay, so the Coen Brothers movie was made in 2000. O Brother, that's the Freemason, where art thou? Can you save me and get me to heaven? If not, might you consider buying me a pint for me deserting all of my children and for profiting from them as part of a global secret society? Right then, which is very, very big in France, near Cluny and Clermont-Ferrand. Okay, here we've got the launch of the Cluny Abbey. Yeah, that's on this tab here. Yeah, and that is the mention of the Cross Keys. Yeah, that is the coat of arms for the Cluny Abbey. It's on the hotel in Kelso Square, run by the Italian, like the chip shop, with links to the Sorrentos and links to the massive empire that links everybody to the Rothschilds at the end of the slavery chain. Okay, so, and that John Patterson now links to the Vatican crimes, and that is correct, because the Vatican is the biggest building, yet the one that was the biggest in the medieval days was Cluny Abbey, and they were so posh and so rich there that they were able to employ slaves from the local neighbourhood, which is why we have an abbey in Kelso, why we have a poorhouse in Kelso, and why everybody is still the victim of this wealth divide plot. And for the Coen brothers, it's really funny, because Coens are the high priests of Israel, and that is Ali G, the Barrett Coen cover-up, because the Barrett Coens are the people that marry the Rothschilds for generations, and they keep the bloodline insipid, which is why they need to invade other people's bedrooms and find commoners like Kate. Right then, so foundation of the Abbey, Cluny and the Gregorian reforms. Yeah, the Gregorian popes just happened to be in charge of world wars. Oh no, sorry, that's the pious popes, because they are more powerful. That is the PISO popes. Okay, the Cluniac prayer, Cluniac houses in Britain, which takes us to the Paisley story. Okay, libraries, arts, Cluny's influence, decline and distraction of the buildings by the revolutionaries, funded by the Rothschilds, as with the elites. 1045, after Benedict IX gets married and sells the papacy, Can you get the stench of it all? To his godfather, Gregory VI, the Emperor Heinrich III calls for the synod, yet they still have a synod for the Church of Scotland. But there are too many people profiteering from it with big houses and big Range Rovers and big cars. Oh no, sorry, it's actually the fundraising administrators that run the Land Rovers and the big cars and get the pathologies. Although the priests have got tiny little cars, the reverend people have got tiny little cars, but they tell me that you cannot go to every synod because there are so many people profiting from it now. They have to take alternate years to go there now. Okay, so that's the Church of Scotland, but this is 1045 with the Church of Rome spreading out all over the medieval world, and 1,000 years after the Jesus joke was initiated, because he never lived. So 1045, Benedict IX gets married, the Christian oath again, and sells the papacy to his godfather Gregory VI. The Emperor Heinrich III calls for the Synod of Sutri to reform the corrupt papacy. That could be the launch of the Kama Sutra stories to cover up the vice in the Christian Church. Okay, 1049, Heinrich III appoints Pope Leo XI, a German reformer. Yeah. Okay, 1050, Kamal, the camel joke, hermit monk, Camalese, hermit monk, Pietro Damian, yeah, the devil, yeah, the Damian Movie, yeah, all of the stories about the church leaders and getting the lightning conductor through his heart in the Damian Movie. Everybody needs to be scared to death, so they rely on religion to calm them down. A book denouncing the moral, yeah, this is Damiani, the Camaldolese hermit monk Pietro, Pierre, Peter, the non-existent St. Peter, Damiano publishes a book denouncing the moral and sexual corruption of the church. Remember in yesterday's video I showed you that O'Brien is in the James Cagney movies, and O'Brien is the paedophile, yeah, in the church that has never been brought to justice, lives on the Lothian coast, yeah, where all of the fascist crimes are there for a laugh. 1050, the ascetics Anthony and Theodosius found the monastery of the Caves, yeah, the parallel for the Quran joke. Pecherska Lavra in Kiev, the last place where the pagans used to worship the sun, the stars and the moon, but now they're obliged for their own safety to worship a Christian man that is declared to be a god, and if you say anything else you are a heretic and you will be burnt on a stick. 1054, the Patriarch of Constantinople and the Pope in Rome excommunicate each other, the Great Schism, so they don't get along with each other, which is why they need 3 popes, one in the east, one in the west and one in the middle, and the one in the east is in the Bohemian Rhapsody song, because they don't get the plague. Okay, the others get the plague and everybody gets what comes to them in the end. Okay, the monastery of Cluny in 1055 captures the papacy. Okay, they become agricultural slaves. That's Agricola joke, yeah, about Britain and the taking away of the armies and the hunter-gatherers and turning them into peasant farmers. Slave venues, but Cluny is the head of the feds of Benedictine abbeys and priories, and the priory is the really powerful one, and this explains the Cluny casino jokes, yeah, which is later on. It was Charlemagne, king of the Holy Roman Empire, who sired the young boss at the Benedictine Cluny Priory, who's profiled in the highlighted bits below. Okay, so they get to call themselves a priory if they're powerful, but very quickly the PISOs realise that that news is out, so they reverse it, and you have to create an abbey if you want to pretend that you're the most powerful. And Hastings, where the French landed, still has a Priory Meadow Supermarket. Yeah? And the stories about St Patrick get more and more fragile, like the stories about McGuiness and Paisley. All of it entirely for profit and chaos, so your society cannot thrive, but you can have several homes all over the world. Okay, so Charlemagne is the Holy Roman Emperor. He's busy in Spain, which is why we have to refer you to his son. Yeah, so the whole of the Christian lands are at war with each other. Yeah, and this is his wee boy, Charlemagne's little laddie. Yeah, with the Christian cross, which could be a massive sword like William Wallace's icon. Yeah, and he's got massive towers, and he was defeated at the Torah Wood, the Jewish joke. Yeah, many of them may never ever have lived like Jesus. Yeah, and when you're powerful with the pen, like Alister Moffat, the head of BBC Scotland, you can write any old bullshit you want, and his book is plagiarised according to my neighbour. King of the Franks. Okay, so this is Louis the PIous with the word pie in it. Yeah, the warmongering popes in world history. Pius XII was the Pope in World War II, and I think it was one of the Gregories that was the Pope in World War I. It's in the Blackadder movies that I've already made, and the videos that I've already made, exposing these campaigns as genocides. So this guy, Louis the PIous, is king of the Franks. That's the French, by the way. 814 to 840. Did not live long. Coronated by his father at Aachen. Yeah. Predecessor Charles I, Charlemagne. Yeah, so we've solved that one about the timeline and King Charles, and the King Charles Spaniels with the floppy lugs now become icons for President who is the one who had dementia in America. Yeah, look at the pictures for President he was a real buffoon after Nixon, or before Nixon. Anyway, let's get on with it. Successor Charles the Bald. Charles II, Holy Roman Emperor. Okay, and the place where this man lived has a Futurescope park, and it does space plans and air balloons and rockets and all the Raphael, the RAF Jewish angel jokes. Whenever I speak about this, we get planes flying over, but today's the Sabbath, and I doubt they'll be allowed to do that because of the Michael Grade jokes and the jokes that are made by Lord Putnam. Yeah, about working for your country on a Sunday for the biggest crime that was ever committed, which is this one. Okay, so what you get is the launch of people in the Merovingian dynasties, and that becomes the spaceman threat from David Icke and all those jokers in the Freemasons. Yeah, and Merv is roving. Yeah, Merv is one of the holy people in this story, and that becomes Mervyn King at the Bank of England. Told you some of that already. Okay, the spouse of this young Frenchman is Judith of Bavaria from Hitler's Nest. Right then, can you see how the power base is being established, and pepping up your healthcare issues of Aquitaine, ever so romantic places. Yeah, and they're from the house of Carolingen, which is the Caroline launch and the launch of the Carolingian spacemen. Yeah, the people who are the lizards from outer space jokes, and they have to raise funds for that in the spying sector, and that is the novel that my wife admires so much about the sometimes always tinker, tailor, soldier, spy stuff. All of it is a fraud about ancient history, and they keep repeating the profiteering. And the mother was Hildegard, the father was Charlemagne. Let's go down and show you more of the Cluny story. Okay, here it is. So they lived, the young guy, in the space place where they've got the future park even today, and they're selling the moon probes and the European space program, which is a load of shit. Yeah, they've made satellite TV possible for Rupert Murdoch so you can be suppressed even further, but the town that they live in and the home that they own is called the Villa Casino Gillam, and that is why it's tied into the Cluny Abbey story. The Cluny, not the Abbey, but the Cluny Priory, because the priories are more powerful and they're closer to the PISO name. Okay, and this youngster is pious. Okay, and there is George Clooney and the casino wheel, which becomes a huge belly laugh for the whole world if you're in the inner circle, like the Queen and those people that shook her hands on that £8 million junket that they had, celebrating the end of the Irish profiteering troubles. Okay, so these are 30-year war eruptions, so the Vesuvius activities and things. So there's the picture of Clermont-Ferrand. There is Cluny, yeah, Clermont-Ferrand, the people that 2 years in a row were invited to the Melrose Sevens, and they get to the final both times. Get beat by Saracens, another religious icon. Yeah, and Cluny is there, and there is Avignon, where they had the Pope in the Great Schism, and there's lovely music and fairy tales launched about Avignon. There is Lyon, where all my possessions were stolen at the airport, and I had to give my speech in a KLM, that's the Dutch Royals vest. Okay? And up here you get to Frankfurt, and here you have Basel, where the central bank is. Yeah, and all of it is the crime scene for the ownership of the world's money. And up here you get Belgium and the Maginot Line and the crime scene for the warmongering slaughters. Are you getting the magnitude of it? Cluny is Clermont-Ferrand, and north by northwest one gets into Basel, Lyon, the Maginot Line. Avignon is near the Côte d'Azur, so it gets the Pope for a time too. And Hastings is relatively small beer. Let me show you the list of the priories in Britain now. No, let's keep going down with the timeline, and then I'll show you that. It's going to take a couple of videos, and we're only up to 1066. Okay, so there is Ian Paisley, which is at the top of that line from Cluny upwards into Scotland. Yeah, and the Paisley place is massive. It's got a massive cathedral in the town. Yeah, Ian Paisley. It's never until this week intrigued me why he might have a Scottish name like that. But now do you understand how the Celtic Rangers, violence and division and hatred works? Entirely pre-planned by the PISOs all of those years ago, thousands and thousands of years ago. But it makes its way up through Lewis in Kent, yeah, to Paisley, and man from the Cluny bishop on the chessboard gets to visit 5 times every century. So they get junkets from Clermont-Ferrand to Melrose now. But in the old days they only used to be able to afford it 5 times every century. And what they've got is the richest institution in Cluny, because they're able to employ slaves from the local community, which is what the Kelsonians now are, and they're quite happy with that.
slaves to Alister Moffat, the millionaire and the rector at St Andrews University. A citizen of this town, and his arse gets licked all of the time. Paisley is in Renfrewshire, where Jim Murphy is in the news all of the time. Jim Murphy is listed as a friend of Israel, like the Conservative Party members, the Lib Dem members and the Labour Party members. All of it is for profit and to deceive the people. None of the politicians are worth their salt, and all are priories who use indentured labourers and focus on storytelling, that's writing the religious texts. Yeah, PISO is in the plural of priory, and you should see how many there are. Okay, and Rabsy Nisbet gets his buckfast cheap, because that's the output of the water to wine joke. Yeah, and it becomes the industry for Scotland. Yeah, it is foggy all around. This was a couple of days ago. Yeah. Yesterday was a magnificent day, and thank you to the visitors from Scotland who are clearly from all over the place. There's a dog show in town, and all of the people are telling me that their dads were proud to be union members in Barnsley, and it's lovely to speak at people that want to free their children from this tyranny. Okay, there's the Paisley story close up, and there you can see the word Paislig. Yeah, Paislig, P-A-I. Yeah, Pi is the PISO moniker. Yeah, there's the massive cathedral. Yeah, and this is just a suburb of Glasgow. And now I understand all the murders and all the news items that come out of there. And I think there's kids being kidnapped again. There were a couple of girls threw themselves off the massive bridge over the River Clyde. Yeah, and the Cluth Pub clash is a joke about that. Clutha is a town in New Zealand, and that's what in the colonies they get. They get a little wooden shed as their place of worship. In the Vatican, you know what they get, and they get the lightning storms, but the media cover that up for them. Yeah, and the coppers do the launch of the Clutha helicopter, they do the inquests into why it crashed, and Stephen House, the profiteer, was the man on the job. And that was chosen because Billy Connolly with the cancer drinks there as an ordinary working man in inverted commas, and his cancer is up the willy because he made jokes about that, and God is watching everything you do. There it is, coming up through the Maginot Line into Frankfurt, the ghettos where the Rothschilds fund all of the teams involved in all of the slaughters. And there are the list of Cluniac houses in Britain, which I'll take you to soon. Okay? The sun's beginning to peep through again. Okay? That's where the hole in the Maginot Line is, and that is where, there in the Belgian region, that the Brie place is, near Waterloo, where they won everybody's central bank in the end. Okay, and the Clutha myths were written in Scotland, like the Rabbie Burns songs, stories and songs about Scotsmen being like Kiwis, being little wee timorous beasties that are unprepared to fight back and unprepared to contest the ownership of their own country, like the referendum. Okay? The Cluniac prayer, I will not bother you with the prose, it's sickening. So there we have Cluny, there we have Paisley, and there we have Louis, where they came ashore. And all we've got in Hastings now is the supermarket named the Priory. Okay, so yeah, we've done all of that, and there's the lean Maginot. Yeah, right up and down, left the hole in it right near Waterloo, the joke about the central banks everywhere. Okay, Paisley. Right then, So we're not getting very far down our timeline since I discovered George Clooney. Ireland, you might have noticed, is just beyond the Isle of Man on that map. Let's have another little look. Everything is part of the plot, and that's why presumably Brian, the life of Brian, and Brian is the snail in the story about Florence and Zebedee. There's the Isle of Man, there's Paisley, and there is Ulster, and there is the place, era, that was aligned with Germany in World War II. And I've been toiling to understand why all night, because I did not make this video last night because I wanted to be a little bit more careful, but the gods were impatient on me and they kneecapped me. I've been barely able to walk, and kneecapping is part of the minor violence. It's not genocidal, but you're able to shoot your enemies in the sectarian violence in the knees. Thank you to the gods for reminding me of that bit, and thank you for taking it away this morning. Okay, Ireland, you might have noticed, is just beyond the Isle of Man, and they lived it up all over and created jobs, but not for women, which is why it's the brothers in the Cluny movement, and the women just appear like angels, and they make themselves sexually available. When the Queen met McGuiness, the security guards could not afford to attend the brothels and the red light district because we are in a sovereign debt crisis, and only the Queen and the quisling leaders of these systems get to tuck their money away in the Isle of Man, which Alex Salmond was prepared to do because he wanted to share the British Mint and the British the constitutional monarchy thing that we already have, and the Irish Mint has been issuing British pounds for years and years and years, and it's in a lovely place called Galway, and the whole world could be unspoilt if you were to start turning on the politicians in the pinstripe suits. And the reason I showed the rugby images of the Irish people singing the anthem is that they are unified north and south, but they still have to sing two anthems because of this bitter and absolutely premeditated plot to tear people apart, and to kill each other so that the leaders can keep the money in the suitcase. Okay, so and that's the women who are now declared as the Virgin Mary, the mortal, to be God's mother. Do you see it? They're not allowed to be in the inner circle of world leaders, and that's why the original sin is not theirs. They are allowed to be part of the joke about the motherhood of the God or the gods and all of their elements that created our universe and every weather pattern that we have. She's allowed to be a major part of the story, and she wears the little blue dress that Eva Braun wore for a laugh. Right then, let's keep going down because it's really, really sick. Okay, and this is the vestments at Mass. So Avignon rivals Rome, and the catwalk joke. So this is the wealthiest monastic house, the Cluny Abbey, before they built the Vatican, in the Western world. Cluny hired managers and workers to do the traditional labour of monks. That's indentured labour, the trade fairs in Kelso Square that happened right up to 1913, when we went to another massive conflict, like the Napoleonic one, totally premeditated and planned like the sectarian violence. Okay, despite the monastical frugal life, Cluny Abbey commissioned candelabras of solid silver and gold chalices made from precious gems for use at the Abbey masses. I cannot read something. Oh, roasted chicken, yeah, the KFC joke is a luxury in France at that time, and now becomes the joke on the French rugby Freemasons jersey. And when they used to come, they dressed in little caps, and we used to call them the gnomes of Zurich, and that is the gnome and the elf joke. And elf is the French company in sub-Saharan Africa that is the massive profiteering joke. The monks wore the finest linen, religious habits and silk vestments at mass. Yeah, so this is the silk stocking jokes, which becomes the silk joke for the judiciary all over the world, and becomes the silk factories for the Rothschilds even in Hertfordshire, where they live in palatial mansions. Okay, exemplifying the wealth of Cluny Abbey are today on display at the Musée de Cluny in Paris. Okay, and we've got a prayer. Yeah, I will not give you that. The holy abbots of Cluny. Okay, so that's as far down the timeline and as I went. Let's now go to that other tab and show you how far this is spread through. It's spread, of course, into the YMCA in California, the Calvary Hill joke and the Cahill joke. Did I show you the Cahill pictures? Yeah, the Red-Nosed Day scamsters are tied into it. The Cahill man is the advisor. There's Ian Paisley, Dr. Ian Paisley, doctor, theological thinker, yeah, acrid speaker, hated people all of the time. And that's a picture of him still in office in 2008 when I was in New Zealand, innocently working away. Nobody in New Zealand owns anything there. Right then, so, and this is Renfrewshire. Let's just scan down and see what this guy does for a joke. Deputy Martin McGuiness, Monarch Elizabeth II. Yeah, and this is the First Minister of Northern Ireland, like the David Steele scams and the McConnell scams. That's Field McConnell, an intimate part of the Christianity fraud, with the pastor in the front and the lead protester all across the world for freedom in inverted commas, citing every time they meet the Christian text, which is a world ownership tool. And they know it now, which is why all of them have deserted me, including John Patterson. Okay, First Minister of Northern Ireland, in office May 2007 to 5th of June 2008. Deputy Martin McGuiness. Yeah, and Mrs. Robinson. All of that laughed at by the people that laugh at the killing of JFK. That is the Sound of Silence music by Simon and Garfunkel. Mrs. Robinson is a joke about the infidelity of the Irish Prime Minister's wife, and they write the music to that 20 years before it happens. Like the Mull of Kintyre, yeah, and the sinking of the, what's the song where the gem was dropped off the boat, the ship that was sunk in the lead up to the World War, out of Ireland. Yeah, the Titanic. They wrote the novel 10 years before they sunk the ship, because in those days there was no one around like me to threaten them with genocidal accusations. They now have to bear that. Yeah, like Jesus bore the cross on his shoulders. And the knock on wood jokes. Okay, succeeded by Peter Robinson. Do you remember it? Teenage boy shagging the wife, because all of it had been planned in advance to show their mastery of the world. And he's got a kid. I might be in danger of really getting kneecapped. Succeeded by Ian Paisley Jr., Protestant Unionist Party. Right then, let's get the other tabs. Yeah, this is Paisley in Picking Scotland. Textiles hub. Yeah, silk stockings all through the story. There it is, the massive cathedral. You see it? Look at that tiny little town. There's Renfrew, and that's the Renfrewshire, which is likely to be a joke about the tiny little bird and how mountains can rise up from molehills and laughs like that. And I've met people on the streets this week who have a premonition that I'm going to talk about this from Clydebank. Okay, and there again we have the Paisley pie joke, and there you have the Paisley patterns, which Paisley is, they make ties. I'll show you that further down. Massive imposing buildings. That's the town hall in Paisley. Yeah, that's the Google Maps number. Thousands of miles from Cluny, and a lot less rich than Cluny was in those medieval days. It's now been razed to the ground by the revolutionaries. Yeah, but the remnants are in the Louvre and the Paris museums. Okay, Paisley. Okay, Jim Murphy, the Cluth Pub man, who just happened to be 2 minutes away when the helicopter crashed into it for a laugh. And that is the Helios joke is part of the gods myths as well. Okay, let's just show you the pictures. There we go. Yeah, the slaves. Yeah, just like the Jumanji film, just like the building in where JFK was shot from, allegedly. Okay, pictures only. Yeah, because I know you're really busy with the sporting tournaments and stuff. And there's the Paisley War Memorial, which shows the ancient sacrifice that Scotland has made in all of this story. Yeah, and I don't know why the body doubles appear at the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's pathetic. If they are the real people, we have Murdochs in attendance. They're from Belgium. Yeah, it's tragic. They're prepared to steal from their own children, but in the case of the body doubles at Jehovah's Witnesses, some of those children are the missing, kidnapped children. That means that the police from Scotland get junkets in Portugal and Spain. Okay, there it is. City of Culture concept, massive thing at the back. Here can you see the cathedral spires? Yeah. And there we have the ties, the Paisley patterns. Yeah, do you get it? I did not link Ian Paisley, the profiteer in sectarian violence, yeah, and the ballistic man that drives everyone apart for all of his career. Yeah, I have not got a picture of his son, which I very much regret, because these people will stop at nothing. The Cahill man has given Gordon Bowden and me death threats already. He's a member of MI6 and loyal to the British constitutional monarchy concept, which is a crime scene in every war and is a massive crime scene now that the intel people can only do the money laundering and the fraudulent news. Brown and Poulson's. Yeah, Sonia Poulton is not part of that joke, but that is part of the baker turn the bones to flour joke, yet used in all of the wars through all of human history, and it's written in the Bible as the fire pans joke. So you shave their heads and you chuck them in the fire pans, and that is you being loyal to the one true God. And the one true God in the skies has been written out, and Jesus Christ or Allah or some such, yeah, or Muhammad, yeah, becomes the person that is deserving of all of your slavery. Okay, and there's a supermarket or something. Oh, it's a Thread Works. And turncoats maybe. Yeah, I've had a Skypey friend, and he told me this week that he had data on the earth being flat, and would I like to talk about that on Skypey? And I said politely, no thanks. Then I discovered this. Renfrewshire House, headquarters of Renfrewshire Council. It's got the Union Jack flying there. Can you see why? Mackay's head office in Caledonian House. That's the Mackays, the head of the law enforcement Scotland, and the woman who was the head of Miss Jean Brodie's school, Marcia Blaine, and Blaine is the man that sits on top of the post like Lord Nelson. And there we have Paisley Abbey, quite small when you see it from ground level, vast tracts of land around it, but not nearly as vast as the properties that had to be sold, once the revolution was suppressed by Scotsmen in France. Okay, Thomas Coates Memorial Church, and there are links also to the main street in Glasgow, which I don't yet understand, but I will by the end of the week. There's the Brodie joke. The Brodies are the new sheriff has experience with Brodies like John Lamont LLP, MSP, who was selling chattels in a second-hand store in Kelso Square yesterday. With English people on his right-hand side. Paisley Grammar School, ever so posh. A state comprehensive. And they've got a University of Paisley and Bell College with links to Hamilton like the Hesses. And they've got the Roman Catholic Cathedral. Now wait for it. The name of the slaughtered wife of Braveheart was Mirren. So this is the Cathedral of St Mirren. That's why I played the Braveheart movie. Everything is sick. Right then, and the priories are everywhere. Let's shame your local village. High Steward of Scotland from Paisley. This is the joke about the list of English abbeys, priories and friaries. Remember the friars? The friars are the Norse gods of beauty and love. They work in Halles, and they work on behalf of the vanquished in war, which is why this house is called Valhalla. And my wife's name is Valerie, and nothing that happens to me is a coincidence. Okay, so this takes you into the Forest of Dean and Bristol, and this is my first hit in this area. It might be intrusive of me, but I can make it a massive icon for religious history, and that will get the owners of it now, because they will become really popular. Okay, when I searched for priory, this is the first hit that I got at the top of the search engine. That's Bath Abbey. Everything is linked to the sporting frauds. There's a very powerful rugby team at Bath. The Roman baths are still completely intact. It's at the end of the Roman road, and it's right next door to Stonehenge, the pagan suppression joke. And Stonehenge, in an aerial photograph, has a picture of a golf club in it. It's not going to open for quickly. Oh yeah, it is. It's a lovely ancient medieval building, now a boarding house. And it's in the Forest of Dean, where all of the movies begin to make sense. All of them are cover-ups. Michael Gambon was the actor in the Forest of Dean saga, where the women were exposing their breasts with lipstick on them, so that all of the people, that was the era when all of the censors for the BBC did not do it, because we were launching the Irish Terror big time in the early 1960s, and you much rather have a woman in a priory place with the tits covered with lipstick, like the stories about Brandeis and Marlon Brando and all of the tangos in Paris. Can you remember how loose we were with our morals in Hollywood at that time? total exposure, and what they fear is exposure of the real truth about the Cluny and Priory place. Let me take you back to that and show you the images. It's all over Britain now, and the Priory, before the PISOs changed the story, yeah, with the word pie in the middle, yeah, and priories in the plural. Unique self-catering holiday homes at the Priory now. It's like the Balkans. The holiday homes are owned by English-speaking Brits, and there's the Wye River, no salmon left in it because of the English greed. And there's the Priory with the Christian cross on the top, and you can have a good weekend there. It's lovely. I will not show you the contact details, you have to look it up for yourself. This is in the Forest of Dean. Michael Gambon, lipstick on the tits sector. And I can't remember the name of the female censor for the BBC and the media in Britain. Mrs. somebody or other. Scandalous figure, like the man that is Ian Paisley and all of his opposition in the Catholic cathedral owning places. Right, let's show you where they are. We're not getting very far down the timeline at all, are we? Where has it gone? We need to go back. Right then, let's get you down here. So that's the Priory at Bath that became Bath Abbey when they made the Abbey more powerful than the Priory as part of the deceitful story. Everything we learn is a lie. They've got one in Coventry, and that is the riding naked for the women through the town of Coventry, linked to the religious system and linked to all of the medieval and witchcraft practices. Okay, here we've got Amesbury, Wiltshire. That's famous for some reason. Was that buried in the floods? Atherston, Bath, Somerset, Benedictine, Austin Friars, different religious movements, all part of Christianity for the divide and rule concept. Cistercians, this is Bewley, Hampshire, yeah, right near Lord Mountbatten's pad. Remember, Lord Mountbatten was killed in Ulster by Prince Philip and the man called Williams from the judiciary in New Zealand. Beauchef in Derbyshire. Okay, Binham, Norfolk, St Mary's Church, Benedictine. They're the biggies, they're the big ones. They were the people that were in charge of the crime scene in Cluny. Birkenhead, Merseyside, the Liverpool slaving team, the Bristol slaving team is the team that live on the River Wye, and they are the slavers as well. All of the scams, all of the money laundering scandals that we've heard about Gordon Bowden telling us that all of their hubs are in Bristol, and all of the Freemasonic sectors, yeah, and all of my old friends that I used to lodge with, yeah, they get horrible pathologies. None of them understand what's happened to them or their family. And she used to have lovely pink toenails. I will not tell you her name, but the Liverpool goalie lived in their town, and she lived right opposite the church and fell out the window when she was cleaning it. Right then, none of those are accidents. And her husband was divorced from her, but he was an elite rower with the oar on the wall. Bishopsgate, Greater London. Yeah, a bit more grandiose there. St Helen, yeah, from the sailing ships out of the first civilization, where they had many gods and they were proud of that. Yeah, and all of those gods are portrayed serenely as part of Greek history. Instead, we've got Mary, who never existed, as their mother, and we've got Jesus Christ as the only God now. Yet the other words are heresy. Yeah, it's amazing how twisted it can be.